was on my way home from work. I just remember waking up in the hospital and them telling me that I had been crushed by a city bus. The night of the accident, I don't recall anything. Throughout the process, I had several injuries. I broke my neck, my brachial plexus, my head was fractured, I broke my right arm, several ribs, my lungs were bruised. It was a very trying and traumatic process. I was in the hospital for almost a month. Luckily, I had family members by my side kind of helping me the whole way. I was in a great hospital and they took great care of me and they stitched me up very well. Unfortunately, I didn't have health insurance at the time, so my stay, I accrued about $500,000 in medical debt. So that already kind of put me at a bad precedent just at the beginning of this whole process. I didn't have a cool near-death story or experience like you hear a lot of these people. So I stayed in the hospital, and at the end of my hospital stay, I had learned to kind of walk again and kind of maneuver my body. It was really a struggle. Then after about 3 weeks to a month, they sent me home and I went to stay with family. And I couldn't feed myself, I couldn't shower, I couldn't move my left arm at all. It was completely paralyzed. And so I was kind of a vegetable for a while there. Luckily, I had my family there and it made the process a lot easier. And throughout the journey, I slowly began regaining my body movements back. One visit to the doctor, he told me that if I didn't get the movement in my left arm, then it would become something called a flail arm, and they would probably have to amputate it. I quickly went home and began mentally kind of focusing any energy that I could to my left arm and to the movement, and slowly began kind of bringing my left arm back into health again. I am a musician, I play guitar, so I slowly started kind of getting back into the movements of guitar, and I think playing the guitar actually helped me get that my left arm back to about 90%. So I'm very grateful for that as well. Throughout this journey, I also had to sue the state of Texas and Houston. It was no faults at all of my own that I got ran over by the bus. Apparently the bus driver, instead of hitting the brake, he hit the gas pedal and he jumped the curb and crushed me. So I had a very long, intense journey and suing this Metro bus company. Most people would think that I would be a millionaire from this process, but no, there's something called tort laws that put caps on the amount of money that you can get from these lawsuits. And when I first heard this, I was dismayed, and I quickly tried to find loopholes and speak to different lawyers and attorneys to try to get through this, to try to get as much money as possible for this kind of situation. Unfortunately, throughout the healing process, I had to accept the fact that I wasn't going to get a significant settlement, and I wouldn't have enough money to even pay the hospital bills that were $500,000 with the settlement. Eventually, I received $100,000 settlement. I had to pay $20,000 to my attorney. Me and the hospital worked out a deal where I would pay about 10% of my hospital bills, which was about $47,000. You can guess what I was left with. So after all, I received my settlement, I got the money, I was ready to restart my life over and started getting an apartment and furniture and kind of, rebuilding to kind of set myself up for reemergence. Little did I know that not only is the healing process physically important, but also mentally and emotionally extremely important as well. So I did very little to focus on my emotional state and my mental state. Trauma and PTSD and resentment and anger. I thought that, just kind of restarting my life would just clear everything. Since I hadn't healed all those things, I just moved back and was all alone in my apartment with just all this rage and this anguish and resentment that didn't really help out too much, especially since I was, heavily and also taking the pain medication way more so than I was needed to. So I kind of dove headfirst into a lengthy alcohol addiction that really brought me to the depths of nothing I've ever seen before. Before the accident, I was kind of getting my life in order and, rebuilding things. And through the accident and all this stuff, it was much worse, much worse. Sank deep into a hole of anger, resentment, fear, and just numbing myself completely. And it was a struggle. And I continued on this path for quite some time. And at some point, I had to make a decision. The job I was at before my accident, my boss was great boss, and he said, "Hey, whenever you're ready, you come back and start work again." Unfortunately, this is the type of job where I have to use my arms. I was down in the dumps, and I started my job again. And restarting the job had its own struggles because I had not fully healed physically, and so I had to readjust to using my arms, mobility to make drinks and to move around. So that was a struggle in itself as well. But they were very patient. I'm very grateful to them as well. Although, I would go home and I had this incredible, still, it started to bleed over into work. They started noticing things. Unfortunately, I used this victim, stance, this victim mentality of myself as an excuse to kind of, anytime that it would bleed over into work, I would be, under the influence or anything, I would use an excuse. Well, it's just my PTSD or it's the medication I'm on. And this made things a lot worse because it enabled me to continue this kind of dive into despair and deeper into this numbness. Eventually, as time went on, they realized there's nothing they could do, and they had to let me go. After all this, I had nothing. At some point, I was at the darkest moment of my life, and I was all alone, and I had no one, and I was very sick. I was just very unhealthy. I was just not even a human. I felt like I was just completely lost. And at that moment, I felt this sense of relief and hope. But I made a choice. I had this instinct in me to make a choice. Do I want to live or, after all this that I went through, do I want to continue or do I want to live? So it was a very simple choice, and I just made the decision that I wanted to live. So I took that small amount of light and I just grabbed it and I pulled it closer towards me, and it kind of filled me up with this intense faith and this intense purpose. And every day I would just slowly make the right changes to succeed. It wasn't easy. I had to detox from a lot of. And after all that, I started making the right changes, and I kind of threw away this mentality of being the victim, and I started taking responsibility for all my actions, and it was really inspiring in a way. I was fulfilled with this purpose, and now I wanted to give others this sense that I got, and so I've been continuing this journey, and I feel like it's important to tell my story. And if anybody else out there is feeling this kind of lost sensation, just make that decision to turn your life over. And it's not easy, but things will get better. Just sit with yourself and go inside and be kind to yourself and be patient. That's all. My perspective of life before the accident, I was kind of lost and just okay with mediocrity. And after the accident, I continued to be lost, and I went deeper and deeper into this lost experience, but gratitude quickly became part of my life, and faith that everything is gonna be okay, that my life is gonna be fine. I also started meditating, and breathing I feel like was really important to me, to just kind of rebalance myself if I ever have an issue. After the accident, I was angry a lot, and I was really angry at the Houston Metro and the guy who ran me over. The anger was going nowhere. It was just dwelling within myself, and it was hurting me within, So I had to let go of the resentment. Once I did that, my perspective changed, and I found peace and serenity and just purpose. I just love life nowadays. I'd love to just exist, and any little thing. Food tastes better, music sounds greater, the colors are more vibrant. Life is just beautiful now that I've kind of changed that perspective. The advice that I would give them is to not be so hard on themselves, to have hope. It will get better. Just allow yourself to have faith and be grateful that you're still here. I'm grateful that I can move all my limbs now. I'm grateful that I could have easily, and for a long time I in my sickness, I was always asking myself, why did I live? Why did I live? You really can't answer that question. The only way to answer that is, well, I lived and I'm still here. And you have to just go with that and make the best of that. I would just sit with the old version of me and listen and be patient with them. And after they're done expressing all the emotion and processing the emotion, then I would just let them know that everything's going to be fine. And life really is beautiful and peaceful and meaningful. And you'll find your purpose in service. Just have more faith in that. As soon as I released the victimhood mentality, that's when I truly took control of my inner self. And through taking control of my inner self, I then was able to easily flow with all of my external reality. All of the things in my life became more manageable. They flowed more. I see a lot of people kind of hope, they did this to me, or I'm a victim of this. And yes, it is tragic that does happen, but as soon as you can move past that and forgive, everything will change. Then your purpose will be revealed and you can grow after that.